Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. How do you do? Welcome to another episode of Be the Thermostat and Not the Thermometer podcast, where we go and we explore leadership, education, and personal growth. I have someone with you or with us today that I am so excited, so pumped up to have as my guest. I have Mr. Jake Palmer, principal at Fisher Grade School here in Illinois, that is going to join us and give us some nuggets, some knowledge, and conversation about being the thermostat. So, Mr. Palmer, welcome to the podcast.
Ron, thanks so much for having me, Dr. Young. I'm so psyched to be here. I know we've had the chance to connect before, but this is gonna be really fun, man. I'm excited to talk about being the thermostat and how that impacts schools, and kind of what we're doing in our respective places to do that.
Oh man, awesome. So I'm gonna give a backstory to the audience. Those of you who may know me personally know I will talk to a fly. And my buddy, Mr. Palmer, will also evidently talk to a fly
Yes.
because we were at the Illinois Principal Association's fall conference and somehow just connected and started talking. And I was like, we're going to be friends. And he was like, yeah, we are. And this was 2 years ago. And we kind of talked. And I think you came to our session about how the house system and
Yep.
incorporating that. And we kind of chopped it up about that a little bit. And then time kind of got away from us and life got busy. And then I saw you again this fall at the fall principals conference, and we talked. I'm like, all right, there's something awesome about this guy. And then I see that you're doing amazing things in your school and leading your teachers and your staff to do things better than they ever thought they could. And I was like, all right, I need to have this guy on my podcast. I need to know him more and find out more. So I'm going to stop talking, and I want you to just give us a little breakdown of your educational journey that's led you to the principalship.
Yeah, great, Tron. Well, I got to talk a little bit. When we met, immediately it was like energy and energy. It was like immediate connection. I knew that we had, like, I was like, this guy, there's something about it, and it just was automatic. So my background, I grew up in a small town, Villa Grove, Illinois, just a little bit south of Champaign, and everything kind of started for me there. I had an unbelievable sixth grade teacher, Jane Faust, who made me walk into a room every day. And you want to talk about being the thermostat, that woman controlled her environment. And I mean, love, energy, passion, enthusiasm, safety, right? And I remember walking in there and thinking, I want to do this for kids. I want to be able to create what she's created and share that, because she's impacting 25 kids a year, right? And
Yes.
if you do that over 25 years, which she has and did, that's a lot of lives you're impacting. And so I knew that I wanted to get into education. So I went to Millikan University, got my bachelor's there, great 4 years, and started out teaching third grade. I came to Fisher right away. I call Fisher Villa Grove North. It's almost the exact same place that I grew up. It's small, it's tight knit. My dad actually graduated from here. We're the Fisher Bunnies. I'm repping my bunny gear on my shirt today. So a pretty fun mascot, but no, I started out here teaching third grade, and I had a principal, Jim Moxley, who encouraged me, hey, you should look at getting into administration. I think it'd be something that you'd be good at. So pretty early on, I went back and got my educational leadership degree and my master's from Eastern Illinois. And then at the right, what's that?
I said, go Panthers.
That's right. EIU. No, got my educational leadership from there. And then at the ripe age of 29, he retired and I accepted the principalship here. So I've been doing that. This is year 5, which is crazy. But I actually started my principal contract in June of 2020. So a really tough year, not the way I wanted things to start. And funny story, actually, I was principal for about 2 weeks, and then I was home at quarantine for about 24 days. So
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even get to hardly be in my building. Labor Day weekend, didn't even end up getting COVID. I had a family member who got it, and I was in contact, so I had to wait. Never got it. So the start of my principalship didn't go how I wanted, but luckily I made it, Tron. Here I am 5 years later. I'm really excited. I'm finishing up my superintendent degree certification. Actually, I got one more class. I'm going to be finished up in about 1 week. I'll be putting through all my stuff for certification. So I'm in year 5, a principal here in Fisher, Illinois. We're in a K-6 building with about 300 kids. Our district's pretty small. We only got about 600 kids. K through 12, and I'm in charge of the first 300 or so for those first 7 years that they're in school. But have about 25 certified staff members and just a small, proud community that my wife and I live here in town. My wife Rachel. And we just love it. Super happy, and got an amazing staff full of great teachers and great kids. So definitely lucky, blessed.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, first, congratulations. And small nugget, I got my first principal job when I was 29 as well.
Let's go. Let's go. That's awesome. Yeah.
Listen, all these connections that's happening. So you know me by now, and we've had good conversations. And my philosophy is being the thermostat and not the thermometer. When you hear that now, or the first time you heard it, and even now, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because you think about thermostat and thermometer to when you're controlling that environment, right? Thermostats control their environment, right? And they have a way of impacting it either positively or negatively, right? We've all been in those rooms that get a little bit too cold. We're like, man, we got to turn the heat up in here. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is there has to be a thermometer standpoint to a thermostat, right? That's part of it. So I think you have to have a feel for what's happening in your environment, right? You need to know when to crank that AC. You need to know when to turn things down. You need to know when to turn things up. And so I think in a building as a principal, I think that is really having a feel for your staff and knowing kind of what they need. Like there were times that, there are times that I got to push them along, right? And then there's times that they got to help pull me back. And so I think that having that balance and being able to have those relationships with your teachers and kind of read what's going on. We've made some pretty big changes and initiatives this year. Actually, I should say last year and over the last several years with our the way that we're approaching reading and feeling like we could do things better. And we're finally getting to a point this next year where we're really going to be making some even bigger changes when it comes to curriculum and things like that. But recognizing, oh man, I've asked a lot of my teachers already these last 2 years. So having a feel for that, having a feel for your environment of when to push. And I had some teachers say, Jake, hold on, we got to slow things down a little bit. But just being well aware of your environment so that way you can decide kind of what's needed in those moments and feel things out. And I just think that's so important. I think Todd Whitaker is the one who says when the principal sneezes, the whole school gets a cold, right? And for me, a guy who's high energy, passionate, loves kids, loves school. I think I got to make sure that I bring that every day, so that way my teachers feel that, they see it, and I try to be a model for them through doing that. So
that's awesome. So being a model and being there for your kids and for your staff. Give us one thing that you do that you believe is like it sets a thermostat for your school. Like this is something you do that intentionally brings your thermostat and sets a thermostat for your staff and your school.
So last year, I've been principal for several years, and I thought last year I'm like, man, I'm gonna get a standing desk. I was like, this is gonna be good. So I had a little desk, real small, on rollers. I'm like, I can, be out in the hallway. Well, right now, Tron, you and I are both vibing. We got 2 screens up, right? Yeah, you got some of the things that you do as an administrator, you got to have 2 screens. So I realized pretty quickly there were some things that I needed to be in my office because I needed that second screen. So this school year, this last summer, what did I do? I bought a big old desk. I got it sitting right over there in the corner. I got a big old desk. It's on wheels. And I am in, our school is set up in a big L. And I sit right in the middle of that L. So I got eyes on both hallways all the time. I love it because it does a couple things. Number one, I'm closer if there's any issues that arise, right? I can be there quick because I'm out in the hallway. Gives me the chance to interact with students and teachers all the time, right? It's where that L sits is actually right by our teacher's lounge.
Yep.
So anybody coming in to make copies, anybody coming into the office, anybody coming into their mailbox, they walk by me. And it might just be hey, how was your weekend? Everything good?
Mhm.
How'd your son's baseball game go? Right. When I'm chatting with teachers, connecting with students. And the thing that I really like about it is I feel like it makes me a little bit more accessible, right?
Yep.
It's a lot easier to walk by me and say, hey, Jake, I was going to ask you about that schedule change for next week. It's a lot easier to do that when I'm just standing in the hall and I'm starting a conversation than coming in. Hey, Mr.
Mm.
Palmer, you free for a second, right? So just being accessible, being available, that's something that's really important to me. And I feel like being out in the hallway, being visible, is something that has really helped me. And I feel like it helps teachers. So
Yeah.
I think it kind of brings out the best of both for my teachers and myself.
Dude, that's amazing. Like one of my number one things I talk about when I tell people about being a thermostat, it's being present and not just present like where you are in attention, but being present, being where the kids and the staff are, because you can't know the thermometer, you can't read it if you're not a part of it, right? So
Exactly.
you actively being in the hallway, man, like that just sets that. Also, it models for your staff because a lot of us tell the staff, be at the door, be at the door. Well, what does that look like when people at the door? Well, if you're out there and you're just talking to your staff, you're talking to the kids, that's a model that you're modeling what you're expecting out of your staff. So it's like multiple things that are done. I tell people, and you're talking about in the hallway, and I had a rolling desk as well. And you know me, I go hard or go home. So I had lights on it. I had a Bluetooth speaker. Like we had
Yes,
a good
I
time.
love it.
And so but I would go in and I would go in classes and I would take my laptop or my iPad and instead of answering emails from my desk or then I would just sit back in the classroom. It's not an informal. It's not that I will sit in that classroom and I would just answer emails. I'm hearing things that were going on. I may raise my hand to answer a question. Then what
Yep.
happens? The other kids start raising their hand because if Dr. Young knows they don't want to, right? And so it's being a part of that and having that feeling, that connection. So that tells the teacher that I'm present, that I'm available. So like I love that. I love that you are in the hallway and you have a desk, and then not only do you have one, but you're like, if I'm gonna do this, I need this to
Yeah,
make
I
it
got to
right. And
upgrade,
so,
right? Well, and
yeah,
Charlie, I love what you said about being in classrooms. I actually work out a code with my teachers when, that was something that I wanted to do when I took over the principalship is I wanted to be in classrooms, right? And there are days and weeks that I'm really good at it. And there's days and weeks that I wish I could do better, just depending on kind of what that week brings. But I love to be able to go into classrooms and my teachers know I got a little code worked out. If I come in and walking towards them or walking around to come see them, they know that I kind of need to chat with them and it's something that I need to do right now.
right.
If I come in and I turn my back and I shut the door, that if you see my back, it just means I'm here to hang out. It just
Yes.
means I'm here. I want to come. I got into being a principal and being in education because I love kids. And that was something that I was determined to do as a principal. Just because I'm not in the classrooms, instructing doesn't mean that I wanted to give that part up, right? I
Yes.
still want to be part of that. And to have, your finger on the pulse of the school, I think that you need to be in classrooms because listen, we got into education because we love kids and love learning. What's
Yes.
more exciting as a principal than being in a room and seeing that, And then
Yeah.
listen, I got some teachers who are doing great things in my building, and I love to walk in and go, "Holy cow!
This is
It's just
awesome.
a regular old Tuesday. This is an awesome activity, right?" And I think it holds a little bit of value, and teachers puff their chests out. You
Yep.
can love to write a little sticky note, leave a positive note. Hey, I love the way you talk to that kid, or hey, this lesson was so engaging and fun. I love how you put the extra time and thanks for doing that.
Mm,
Just little things like that to offer those pieces of encouragement is something that's really big for me.
for sure. Okay, so think about so you're in gear 5, and statistically speaking, most principals don't last 5 years in the same building, let alone in the principalship these days. What is one thing that you've learned that you will hope someone who is starting this journey as a principal would learn? Or like, hey, this is one piece of advice to make sure that you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, Tron, and kind of the way that I set up, I think boundaries is really big. I talk to, we've talked a lot about modeling, but it's one thing for me to tell teachers, hey, you got to be able to shut it off when you go home. You got to be able, I try to model all that in my first staff meeting of the year. Every year, I talk about how kind of I expect or how I'm going to communicate with them, right? How they can expect to be communicated with. Listen, if you need an email from me in the next 20, if you want to talk to me and it's 24 to 48 hours, email me. You want to reply in the next 1 to 2 hours, text me. And if you need something right now, call me. Right. And
that.
so they know, and that's how I operate, right?
Yep.
Without an emergency, I am not calling a teacher outside of school hours. When they get out of here, it is their time, and so often, and listen, man, I'm an advocate for kids. I'm a crusader for kids. I want to do whatever we can. But coming off COVID, I had one of my teachers mention it to me, and I put it on my staff agenda to start the year every year. I always want to do what's best for kids, right? Every principal wants to do that, hopefully. But we can still do what's best for kids in the context of healthy and balanced teachers, right? And so setting up teachers so that way they have those boundaries, trying to model that and reminding them like, hey, don't take that paper home to grade it. Like if you don't grade it and you give a participation grade, it's cool. Like don't stress about not cooking dinner or being late for your daughter or son's basketball game because you're worried about grading those papers, or you're not present because you feel like you got to get this planned out. Send that email later, set your working hours, do those types of things. And I think what I would want teachers and principals to realize, like, here's the thing. If I spent all my hours here at school, yeah, I could be a better principal, right? I don't do that, but I want to be a principal for 10, 15, you know what I mean, right? I want to be able to change kids' lives in a positive way and not get out of education in 4 more years because I'm exhausted. And so when I think about the trade-off, right? Like I'm trying to keep things balanced. I want my teachers to keep things balanced. And if they don't get that one paper graded and they come to school the next day and they're more charged up and present and loving our kids, that's a better trade-off anyways, right? So that's kind of the advice that I would give. And that's how I try to live my life. And when it comes in, like when I come in on Mondays, I haven't worked all weekend. Like on 4:00 Friday night, I'm out. And when I come back Monday, who's going to have the biggest smile on their face, excited. I'm like, we're going to be coming back from break. It's a Sunday night. I can't wait till tomorrow. I'm excited to see my kids. I'm excited to see my teachers. It's because I haven't answered one email. It's because I haven't got back on anything. I mean, when it comes to the weekend, when it comes to those late evenings, I shut things off. I'm not answering those emails late at night. My teachers know that. And here's the thing. If they get antsy and they get anxious and they're going to feel better catching up on those emails after work hours, that's cool too. If it's going to help you and that helps your balance and feel better home, that's fine. Right. But I think it's trying to find what works for people and then really sticking to that, I think, is important.
Man, I have my first episode of season 3 is carrying these badges, right? Like these badges that I no longer want to carry of like, hey, I didn't eat lunch for an entire week because I was so busy, or I stayed at work. I was the first to get there and the last to leave, and I still got 20 million things on my to-do list. Like I wasn't present at my kids' game because I was like all those badges, those unwanted badges. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because you're 5 years in, and it's so awesome that you know that. Because I'm going to tell you, it took some hard lessons because there's this unwritten rule somewhere that people believe. Like once you step into this thing called education, that you're no longer supposed to have a life, right? Like you are no longer supposed to be. And so I have this activity with people that I do. That I'm like, okay, make a circle, like a pie, and divide that pie into everything that you believe you are. And when people first do it, like majority of their pie is like teacher. And then it's like parent, mother, like, and I'm like, okay, now let's stop. Are you not a sister? Are you not a brother? Are you not someone who loves basketball, who likes to play tennis, who wants to go to concerts? Like you are all these things. So don't define yourself by your career, right? Because here's what happens. We invest in our lives into our kids, into things that we do. But at the end of the day, those kids move on. But your family, your friends, and all that are the people who are still in your bucket, in your circle. So you got to make sure that you are taking care of them as well. So thank you for sharing that. And leaders, listen, you have to put in your own boundaries. My wife told me, and it was hard for me to learn, but there's no emergency text message or emergency email. So when you said the 24, 48, like the 1 or 2, and I'm like, Oh, dude, that's so awesome. And you see, that's why I text you and I didn't email you because I'm like, listen, I get it. Like, I really want to connect. So, like, but it's not that, it's not a fire, it's not a,
Yes.
now, if you want to answer my text, I would have called you, like, hey, Jake, you said we were going to be friends.
Let's
I
come
was on a
on.
podcast.
Come
Like,
on. Sean, and I love what you're saying about, reminding yourself and defining who you are. At the very start of the year, I do my staff meeting, and to start the year, I have a PowerPoint, and it says every year, it says, who am I? And it talks about why, the leader that I want to be, because I need them to know this is who I am. And listen, if I'm not doing what I said I want to do, I need you to hold me accountable. And on that same slideshow, I put who am I, and I talk about that, and then I go in and I say I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a son. And I have pictures of my family, right?
Yep.
Relationships are huge to me. We do an activity where I have teachers share pictures over the summer. I put them in the back to school slideshow. I'll have to give it to you on that because it's a pretty cool thing. But anyways, and I go through, and I told you pre-show, I put on there, I'm a cat daddy. I got 2 pictures of my cats. I don't have kids yet, right? But so I have that on there. And then and the very last thing is I'm a principal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a job that I have, right? And it's a big part of who I am, but it's not everything. And then so trying to model that and remind them, like, listen, you're a teacher and you're amazing for doing that, but it's not who you are, right? There are relationships and obligations and things you have outside of school that are a lot more important. And if I'm talking about that, I hope it makes it a little bit more comfortable for them maybe to talk about.
Absolutely, man. You're so modeling that adult SEL that people talk about. You're actually doing it. And so
I try to.
Yeah. And it's not easy, right? Like, and there are times where we're great at it, and there are times where we have to reality check, right? And so that's good. All right, friends. So, like, we've talked and we've connected, and it's been awesome to connect. And this is a start of a beautiful friendship. Those of you who are listening, those of you who are watching, you may think like we've been friends forever. Well, guess what? We are now. So
that's right.
I believe people are put in my life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I don't know why, Jake, you were put in my life, but I'm excited for us to learn and grow together. But there are probably other people that you're like, these are people that are my edu heroes, or people that have helped me be a better leader, or people need to follow because I follow them and I learned so much from them. Who's like 4 or 5 people that you think, because what we know, right? I'm a John Maxwell leadership coach. And in his book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, he quotes David McClellan from Harvard that says people who you habitually associate with are called your reference group. And these people determine as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. And the way I heard it is, if you look at the 5 people that you hang around with, those are how high you will fly with the 5 that you have on your inner circle. So let's help people build their reference group or their inner circle with people on a professional or even your personal level that have helped you or that you think people need to know about.
Yeah, I've talked a little bit about building relationships with teachers, maybe not the nitty-gritty of how I do that, but I think it's so important. Sean, I'm at a super small school, right? Like, listen, I can't pay people the most. We don't have the best building. We don't have the most money or the best resources, right? Mm-hmm. So what can I do in order to make people want to come to Fisher, right? And not just come to Fisher, but want to be here and stay here. So one of the people who comes to mind is Clint Pulver. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He wrote a book called I Love It Here, and it's about creating organizations that people never want to leave. He has a great YouTube video called Mr. Jensen. Have you seen that? So he wrote, that's the author. So a lot of people know him through that. But he just focuses on how do you create an environment where people come and they never want to leave. And that's super important for me as somebody who I know we chatted a little bit about growing new teachers, right? And helping new teachers. That's crucial. I want them to be able to love it here. I try and be honest. One of the people who I think has had an impact on me is you. We chatted pre-show. There are people in your life who are chargers and who are drainers, right? And people come in and they're going to have one impact on you one way or another. And you are such a charger, brother. Like, I talk to you, I listen to your podcast, and I'm literally like, I am geeked up right now for education. Like, you were talking to a principal a couple weeks ago, and I just was listening to you guys talk, and I'm like, I want to run through a brick wall right now. Like, I'm a former football player, former football coach, and like, that energy, that enthusiasm, and it's contagious, we don't as principals, we don't talk about that enough of how important it is to be around people and have people in your life who are chargers. And, you're one of them. So I think finding those outlets of positivity and ways to, we've talked about that work-life balance, but bringing people into your life and keeping them there. That's the thing. You're in it, dude. Me and you, we're in it now. And, I think that's so crucial. So I love you for that. Let's see. I think one of the things that gets lost, Tron, being an elementary school principal, our network isn't as big, or it doesn't happen as organically as maybe some other leadership roles, because elementary schools are so on their own, right? We don't have conferences where we communicate with athletic directors and other principals. So I have a couple local principals who I communicate with. Couple really good ones over here in Central Illinois at Blue Ridge is Ryan Payton. He does a great job. And then Bobby Beck, Mr. Beck, I got to give a shout out to. He's down at Villa Grove. He's another principal where I grew up at. Actually, he was a kindergarten teacher. I was in his kindergarten class as a student worker. Another guy who made me want to be a teacher, and shout out to him, just got Villa Grove to exemplary on their report card. So
is he an Eastern Illinois grad?
He's an Eastern Illinois grad, and he's big on Eastern. You need to have him on.
Listen, I was an RA with Bobby.
And no,
is his wife Aaron?
Yes, Aaron. Yeah. Yes, they're in Atwood. Yeah, he's an Atwood guy. No.
Yes.
If you were around us, I still call him Coach Beck. He's one of my high school football coaches, and he's doing some just really special things down there. And so I love just talking to those guys, because it's great to connect with those small school, just schools that look like you and have similar personnel issues, have similar teacher issues, kid issues, right? All those things that you can try to help each other with. And the last one I'll throw out is I'm reading a book right now called I know a lot of people have heard of like the 5 love languages. This is the 5 love languages of appreciation in the workplace. So it's by Gary Chapman and Paul White. It's just all about how can you show people around you that you appreciate them, right? And that, some people like to, they want to be given a shout out during a staff meeting, right? We do that at our staff meetings. Other people that makes them cringe. They shrink other people want a note of gratuity, so just little things trying to figure out how you can really fill people's cup up, how you can charge them in their lives, because that's really what I believe as a thermostat, what we're supposed to do. We have to feel the temperature. We got to figure out what people need. And then it's our job to deliver, change that environment to be exactly what our teachers, our kids, and our community needs. And what an awesome responsibility that is to carry, because in these communities, how powerful are school leaders, how powerful are teachers to be able to make such an impact on kids. And we're blessed, man, to get to do this. We're blessed.
Dude, I'm excited. We're gonna do some work together, because
we're gonna do some work.
We are so in sync, and it's funny how intertwined of people and all that good stuff.
That's crazy
that it is. And here's what I love about your list. Sometimes I get guests on here, and there's nothing wrong with their lists are heavy hitters, right? Jimmy Casas, Ron Clark,
those guys are great,
right? Those are my edu heroes. But what I've loved about you since getting to know you, you are a very genuine, real person, and there's no fluff. You are about the heart, the passion, and the work. And you highlighted people that not only you grow with and from, but that you are also passionate of supporting and learning from, and your own growth. And so that's just, I appreciate that. I appreciate your list. I appreciate to be included on the list, whether it's because you're on my podcast or you truly believe it. I'll take it. And thank you so much, man.
Tron, it's been a pleasure, dude. I thank so much for having me. Like I said, you're doing so much for people by just being who you are, having this podcast. How do you find the time to be an amazing principal or an amazing assistant soup, an amazing school administrator, and then do this too to get your network, right? It just gets so much bigger from this. And I think you're such a blessing to people because you are bringing energy, positivity, enthusiasm, and you're taking it beyond just your school, which is so exciting. And putting this out there, because we would have connected, but to be able to do this and hope that I've listened to some of the other work that you've done on some of these podcasts and the things that you've done, and it's so exciting to hear about all the awesome things that teachers are doing and that school leaders are doing, and you taking the time to highlight those is just awesome,
dude. Hey, you know what? It's time for us to rethink how we do education and what we believe education looks like. And we only do it by learning and growing from each other. We have to take the things that we learn and how we learn to put them in a box, and let's regain our toolbox to be for the generation of kids, not for their today and our today, but for their tomorrow. Because that's what we're in the kids business and we're in their future business. And I'm excited to be there and be doing that work with you. So, all right. So I do want to give some time, like people that want to follow the work that you're doing, people that want to see, all right, who is this Jake Palmer guy and here in Fisher Grade School, and what's the work they're doing? How can they follow you? What's your social media? All that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm not, like you said, Tron, I'm not a fancy dude. I don't have my own principal Facebook page. It's just Jake Palmer. If you want to follow along our school, I do a lot of posting on social media, creating reels, sharing all the good work that our teachers are doing. That's Fisher CUSD #1. That's our Facebook and Instagram handle, as well as Twitter. So it all comes out on there, just the cool stuff that our teachers and staff are doing here in our community. But yeah, like you said, I'm not a fancy guy, but yeah, Instagram's the same way. It's Jake Palmer, except my favorite number is 3. So instead of E's, I got 3s. So JAK 3 PALM 3R. So if you want to follow me on there, but you're not going to see a bunch of, honestly, you're going to see a lot more personal stuff being posted than anything. I'm obviously going to share all the school stuff, but I post my personal stuff on there because that's what I think social media is for a personal thing for me.
Yeah. Hey, and that's that balance, right? Like that's the genuine Jake Palmer that I'm so glad, right? Like that you noted, right? And so it's not someone see your highlight reel. It's like this is life, right? And
Yep.
so I appreciate that. All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this podcast and you enjoyed the information and the nuggets, I told you guys, I told you he was going to drop some knowledge and some nuggets for us all to learn and grow from. So, Jake, thank you so very much. I appreciate you answering my text, of you being on a podcast, and more importantly, the start of this beautiful friendship. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so very much, and have a great day.